and tourers, along with a number of quite famous saloons. And post-war, the Roadster was a vehicle they brought into use. Rodney Thompson, restorer of a number of fine vintage and classic cars, has done a wonderful job on this and turned out a very nice looking single Roadster, very solid and very usable motor car with that 1100cc engine under the bonnet. The next one up, a nicely appointed family saloon built by Lanchester. Lanchester through the 20s and 30s were very well known for their big saloons and limousines. They decided post-war it was time to produce more of a mid-range family car, and they produced this little 10 horsepower car in 1948-49. Its production ran right into the 1950s. This car runs with a pre-selector gearbox. It has a gear change on the steering column, but it isn't a straightforward clutch to gearbox. In pre-selector you can move the little lever, that chooses your next gear, and when you're ready for it you simply press the clutch pedal and it goes into that gear. Very handy, certainly on the bigger pre-war cars where you need Van der Pla. This built around the Austin Princess at the top of the range, superbly appointed. Van der Pla, a car of choice for the diplomatic corps in London, for ferrying MPs about. Very well appointed, 3 litre 6-cylinder engine under the bonnet, all leather and walnut inside. You can see a very well appointed, spacious body on there, huge boot. Goodness knows how many miles to the gallon it does, or gallons to the mile, but it won't be many. Next one up. Learning his role, this is one of the early ones from '66 with the 875cc engine, very original, standard, unmodified. These cars were built in a brand new factory in Scotland at Linwood from the early 1960s. In some ways to take on the success and take on head on the Mini. Next one up, the little Triumph Herald. This one from 1970, running the 1147cc engine, which was very popular in this little Herald range. Triumph had built many sports cars through the 1930s and particularly in the 1950s with the TR range. But they'd always had a hand in saloons as well, and they decided that there was an opportunity here in the late 50s, early 60s to get into the small family car market and produce this car. And one of its unique features was its all-independent, all-round independent suspension. It looks a bit wobbly at times, but they do handle very well, and they're very light to steer. And they came in ultimately a variety of engine sizes, but this was the basic one. It's just a 2-door saloon body with different bodies put on the Herald, and so nice to see a good sound original example. Another Herald to follow on, this time with a convertible body on it, and this is running the 1350cc engine under the bonnet, built in 1969. Looks very smart indeed. Again, another lovely example. Inside booth, excellent road holding. This one running with the original 875cc aluminium engine in the tail there. The boot is actually the bonnet, so the engine's at the back over the rear wheels, giving them excellent traction. There's a young man here today who runs one of these with a 1200C high revving engine for rallying. It really is quite a fearsome machine, but beautifully prepared and engineered. This is the start of the origins of that, the 85cc family 2-door, and they're a nice little lightweight motor car. Some of the early examples, on this one fitted with the 3-litre V8 engine, which makes the Stag so much more appealing in a way. It has lovely slippery aerodynamic lines, reasonable size boot, and enough room in there for a sort of 2+2. You'll get 2 adults comfortably in the front and 2 for an occasional ride in the back. So a very nice, beautifully turned out motor car with that lovely 3-litre V8 engine on the bottom. Very nicely turned out. This is the Jaguar Mark II 3.4 litre engine, XK engine. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Just burbling round. 3.4 litres of Jaguar XK engine on 2 big fat SU carburettors and beautiful chrome wire wheels, British racing green. Jaguar's advertising logo in the 50s particularly was grace, space and pace, and I think that fits that definition perfectly. What a lovely sporting motor car, especially with that straight 6 XK engine under the bottom. The Austin 7 introduced in the 1920s. This one was built in 1931, just a little two-door saloon. You can see the windscreen folds outwards for additional ventilation. That doesn't mean that they were draft-proof, far from it, but an awful lot of warmth came through from the engine. Just a 747cc engine under the bonnet with 2 bearings in the crank, one on the front, one on the back, and 4 conner rods in between. All a bit scary, but the Austin 7, despite its apparent fragility, is a very robust and reliable little car, and there's a tremendous following both for its saloons and for its sporting motor cars. Certainly the sporting cars is still used regularly in competition, so a robust and a very nice example there of the little 4-seater saloon, 2-door saloon. This one built in 1948. Elvis, famous right through the late 20s and through the 30s for their sporting motor cars, their tourers, their big saloons. This one in 1948, Elvis just coming back into motor car production, having been significantly diverted into the production of military vehicles during the Second War. They continued to produce military vehicles right up into the 1980s, but immediately post-war designed heavily influenced what they had in the 30s, and this is really the last of that line, the TA-14, the 1800cc engine. Early in the 50s, this is a little minor 1000 convertible with the 1098cc engine that the later models used. This one built in 68. Quite a rare thing now to find a decent Morris Minor convertible. The problem with the convertible Minor was the roofs were notorious for leaking, so the rain got inside and rotted the floor from the inside to the outside quicker than it did from the outside to the inside. This has survived. It's in very lovely original condition, and what a nice little touring motor car now coming in. Jowett, manufacturers of motor cars and vans over many years, use the horizontally opposed air-cooled 4-cylinder engine in a range of vehicles, and this Jowett Javelin was produced in 1953, still in some ways using that very sort of Art Nouveau aerodynamic swept rear that was very popular in the 1930s with saloon cars. So under that high bonnet there's just a little flat 4-cylinder air-cooled engine, very torquey, very usable power produced from it for a big 4-cylinder 4-door saloon. So a nice example of quite a rare motor car there. 56 example with the early 803cc engine in it. Little round, they call them the Baby Austin. This is what I call the 2+2 version. In other words, it's a 4-door with a small back window, the A30. I passed my driving test in one of those. Amazing. That was millions of years ago. But they're a very popular little car in the day. They were a big step forward from the pre-war motor cars that preceded it and the post-war designs that were heavily dependent on what was being built in the 30s. So the little A30 would, you could wind it up to about 60 miles an hour if you were brave, but it was an economical machine. You get a family of 4 in there, very comfortable, and most of the luggage in the boot. To follow on, another very popular small saloon of the late 50s, early 60s, the Anglia, Ford Anglia, this shape, the 105E, initially came onto the road in 1959 with a 997cc engine, which is the engine this little car runs. 2-door, a decent sized boot, the unusual rear window that 105E sported right throughout its manufacture. Little 997 engine was incredibly robust. It was a new design from Ford, overhead valve, 997. That engine, the block of that engine was used in Formula Junior, which became Formula 3 in a more highly tuned form, single-seaters. But the Anglia appeared built in 1934, very nicely coach painted, very much in the livery of the early days. The dark blue over black enamelled wings was not unusual. This has a nice little coach line around the waist. The folding roof, the folding head roof. It's surprising how many cars in the 20s and 30s had such things, given our wet and windy climate. And certainly I can recall in the 50s, my grandparents would have a car and it would have had one of these sliding roofs, but inevitably it was bosticked in place because it usually leaked. A nice, useful, very robust sports car. Highly tunable, lots of parts available for doing that, but it's standard trim, a good all-rounder, quite economical on the road, and highly sought after. A tremendous following for the V's now, very popular with the MG owners and owners clubs. About to pass me, which is the Lagonda 2-litre speed model from 1928. These were extremely well appointed, very well prepared built motor cars. They were built at Staines down in down West London. I think the site is now a Tesco store or something, sadly. But the 2-litre speed model was quicker than many of the 3-litre Lagondas that Lagonda built. Very few Humbers of this model have survived. The Hawk has a lovely smooth 4-cylinder engine producing 2.2 litres. A 6-cylinder engine went into this body and it ran as a Snipe or a Super Snipe. They were always the bigger cars. This one is a very well appointed, 5 adults in there with comfort, all the luggage. There are so few of these that have survived, it's amazing. 1962. A little minor, and it's in its original factory paint scheme as well, that lovely green over old English cream on the wheels. 4 doors, decent move, cracking little family car. These built initially with a 948cc engine, and then they went on to the 1098. I think this is probably the 948 under the bonnet. It stands very proudly and square on its suspension. In addition to the sports cars, MG made a whole range of sporting saloons. Many of them ran with 6-cylinder engines. Is this a 6-cylinder or a 4? 4? Right, that's grand. It's again an elegant machine is this, built in 1938. It's a 1500cc, so it will be the 4, that's correct. And on those sort of disc wheels, the hubcaps on there, it's the steel wheels underneath, but it does give it that very period look, 1930s look. They were a popular machine in the day, the big sporting saloon, and especially with the MG, all that went with that sort of reputation from the motoring world. These big MG saloons, on the whole, didn't survive very well. They did suffer from chassis rot, and often they were cut up into bits, and the engine transferred over into the sporting cars to keep them going. So it's great to see not one of these that has survived. And that is very nice. That's a very period colour scheme as well. This Victor 101 estate, built in 65, was of that era of Vauxhalls, where Vauxhall had a supplier who sent them their steel with lots of impurities. And poor old Vauxhall cars used to fall apart bodily. Vauxhall always produced very good engines, and that was very much the selling point. 4 and 6-cylinder, very smooth, robust engines, and continued to do so. We're let down badly by the steel estate to follow on. The Roots Group, Hillman, absorbed into the Roots Group in the 1950s, and here we've got the Hillman Super Minx from 1965. Originally the Minx of this sort of body design would have run with a 1500cc engine, but Roots produced this very, very robust 1725 5-bearing crank engine, which went through this range, the Hillman and the Singer and the Sunwings at the time. And here we've got a nice 4-door estate, loads of room here, well appointed inside the cabin, and a good robust engine under the bonnet. And again in its original, very smart factory colours. So not many of them have survived. Appeared in the 1960s is this Volvo GT car known as the P1800. It runs an 1800cc engine under the bonnet, and anybody who watched Roger Moore in The Seine would remember that he used to drive one of these. This was quite a controversial design when it first appeared. People were used to Volvos producing either trucks or big, robust saloons for use in the Scandinavian countries, mainly on snow and ice, and along came this rather elegant GT car. It's got a decent boot, it's plenty of room for 2 passengers inside, room just behind the front seats. This one is in its original colour scheme, this rather splendid cream colour, and is very original. And again, I keep saying it, but another one, as is this one, built in the 1930s, 1932, runs that tremendous Riley 9 engine, which had the benefit of a twin cam cylinder head, which gave the 9 horsepower a lot of zing. and in addition to the Tourers, Riley made some very small sporting cars and some out-and-out racing cars. And that 9 horsepower engine with its twin cam was infinitely tunable. So you could go from a very lightweight racing machine. Now this has come a fair distance to be with us this weekend. We don't have too many Model Ts, although last year we were awash with them when they had the Model T rally up here. So where you go, let's have a look at you. Now from memory, Model T has 2 forward gears and 1 reverse gear, and it needs the use of all of your hands and feet and anybody else's to help you to drive it. It looks simple, far from it. Incredibly robust. The Model T, introduced in America by Henry Ford, went worldwide in all sorts of body configurations. And this is the big open Tourer. Just got the hood up this afternoon. So 2 forward gears, 1 reverse gear. Synonymous with motorsport, motor racing, and these Nashes are very, very popular, highly sought after. The owners take them on long distance continental trips. They call them the Nash Raids. They go all over Europe in these things. It's chain driven to the rear, so when you look at it from the back you'll see that the rear wheels, the rear track, is a lot narrower than the front. So there are 2 big chains underneath, from the drive at the front to the rear axle. 3, 4! So if it breaks, you've got many opportunities of having things slap in. I can remember when the E-Type appeared first on the roads, they were absolutely breathtaking. You can see why. They're still such a wonderful, sleek, aerodynamic shape. Ran with the XK 6-cylinder Jaguar XK engine under the bonnet. The early ones running the 3.4 litre engine. This one has got the 4.2 litre, built in 1969. They ran them as a closed coupe like this, or as an open top roadster. All forms of this Jaguar E-Type were very desirable. Some of the later ones ended up with the Jaguar V12. There were very few Tourers made, so this makes this car pretty unique really, and it is in superb condition. And people in the 30s who couldn't afford exotic motor cars still longed for open-air motoring. And when you could take something like a Ford Model Y or a Morris 8 and convert it, the factory did this, into a Tourer body, you suddenly had a low-cost, very economical little open Tourer where you could go out and have the time of your life with fresh-air motoring. So that's a rare motor car. The little Ford, it's known as the Alpine Tourer.